May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Today I want to talk to you about the intertablet zone. That's what I call this passage from the book of Exodus. It is between tablets. Not like someone who has damaged their iPhone or their iPod or iPad and they're between tablets. But they are between covenants and relationships are being negotiated with God. In this passage, we'll see that in some senses, it's an awkward time for us as readers. But we can find ourselves in the passage simply because Moses approaches God in the tent of meeting and begins to bargain and to talk with God like a friend. For many of us, we feel perhaps embarrassed when we think of bargaining with God. And what does that mean? But I tell you, it has a long tradition. From Moses to the woman who meets Jesus and talks about the crumbs under the table, to Martin Luther, who in a thunderstorm promises to God that if he survives, he'll become a monk. These bargaining aspects are important. But let me take you back a little bit beyond this chapter. Moses has gone up the hill to meet with God. And a cloud descends upon that hill, and there's strict rules about clearing off all of the wildlife on the bottom of the hill. The people are left behind with Aaron in charge. And there is a time when things seem to be a little bit longer. It's taking them a while up there. What's going on? And the people claim for something. They desire some relationship, some sign, some symbol. And Aaron gets the people to take off their golden earrings, their trinkets, and melts them down. And out comes a golden calf. In other places in the story, it seems when Aaron is accused, it sounds a lot like the Garden of Eden, about biting into the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Well, she made me do it. Well, the snake made me do it. Aaron says, it just kind of came out like that. It's not my fault. Well, as that is going on, Moses is receiving the 10 Commandments, a covenant with God. And no sooner has he received them than God says, I think you better get back down the hill. And as Moses comes down the hill, he hears partying going on. And he approaches and realizes that they are in worship to this golden calf. And in anger, Moses smashes the tablets, the covenant that has been arranged with God. There's a lot that has happened in that time. And now, as the people are tented all about, the tent of meeting is set up again, and Moses enters into that tent. The tradition has it that people would stand at their own tent door and entrances and watch as Moses went in. And as he passed through the threshold, they would all bow down in worship. This was serious business. Little did they know that inside it felt like a negotiation with someone. And Moses seems to be a little bit angry about God. And God says that he's going to follow, or he's going to precede them in a pillar of cloud, like he has in the past. But that now, God is going to send someone else, an angel, to do that, because God is worried about harming these stiff-necked people. He worries about doing something wrong. Yet Moses says, well, these are your people. You've told me to lead your people. You've got to be in this deal or else the deal is off. Well, this is where we are. We're at the bargaining table. And Moses maybe steps a little too far, because not only does he want God to participate, but he wants to see God's glory. He wants to know what's going on. He wants maybe to be more intimate with God. And God says, you can't do that. To see my glory, to see me face to face, you would die. I will put you in a cleft and cover you with my hand, and I will pass by, and you will see me from behind. And every Sunday school child's little giggle is that Moses saw God's rear end. But here we are. In this passage, God now gets serious about the negotiations and says, I will be generous to who I will be generous, and proclaims that God is God. But he also gives Moses a hint, just like two friends talking across the room together. You know my name. I know your name. And that is a sign and a symbol of their trust with each other. After this meeting, Moses is going to go up the mountain again, and he's going to arrive back down the mountain to all the people with the 10 Commandments. The covenant has been restored. And so we call this, perhaps, this certain passage, it's between two tablets. The tablet that was smashed because of the people's iniquity, the people's idolatry, and how those negotiations happened was all based on, you know me, I know you, and let's continue on. Another thing about this passage that is really fascinating for me is because it talks about God in ways that we will understand in our own spiritual lives. We talk about a transcendent God, or an intimate God. A transcendent God seems so far away, but yet knows every hair of our heads. An intimate God comes to us in another testament, another covenant, in Jesus Christ, as a simple baby, this intimate child, knowing God both intimately and at a distance. Now that the children have arrived, I was going to talk to you about a special thing I used to watch on Sesame Street, which was one of my favorite shows. There was a character in Sesame Street who was all blue and fuzzy, and he had these floppy arms, much like my own. And his name was Grover. Do you know Grover? Yeah. Oh, okay, I've got some hands up. I've got jokes out here. All right. So Grover had this thing where on the camera, he would run up really close to the camera and he'd yell out, "Near!" And then he'd back up out of view and keep going and going into the set. And he'd say, "Far!" And he'd do this back and forth. And I'm so glad I hadn't had the chance this morning, or else I'll be dripping in sweat doing this back and forth. But it's very much the sense that sometimes we can feel God very present to us, and sometimes we feel that God is very far from us. Now, it might be that we're sitting late at night, and we've got a candle lit, and we've got family members around the table, and people's eyes are full of tears, and we've just lost a loved one or a friend, and sometimes it feels that God is very far away. Or maybe we've been up all morning, struggling, laboring, and have given birth to a child, and our eyes are filled with love, joy, and hope. And that sense of God has become all so near to us. In each of those circumstances, just like we have with the bargaining, it doesn't matter if God feels far away or if God feels up close and right up to the screen like Grover. God knows our name, and we know his.